Good afternoon. I'm Jan DeYogas, and this is Tom Tellett, our president, and Peter Elder is our treasurer and technician. And lucky he was here because he was able to set up a Zoom meeting so that we can have a few more participants. Please feel free to share and ask questions. That's what it is, an open forum. And we look at this as oral history because this is National Preservation Month, and we like to hear stories from people who grew up in Webster. And because we're very interested in Indian Village and putting together the history, we don't have anything on it. So we did some research. Gary and Millie Ippolito, we gave them the homes to research. And so they found the builder in Indiana was the one who did the prefab homes. And this was all instigated because the World War II was over and all the veterans were coming home. And so they put together the GI Bill to help veterans get homes and to help them get an education. These homes were very reasonable. There was $5,000 was one of them, and 7,000. Here, wait a minute. Let me read it.
Hey Jan, can you stand to this?
1,000 to 1,600 square feet, costing $7,000 and $16,000, with a minimum payment or a payment of $900.
Can you buy half a
So,
car for that? No.
I think, and the interesting thing is, when we started researching, we found out that these homes are built all over the United States. And Priscilla is here, and she'll tell us about a neighborhood in Canandaigua that is similar to our Indian Village neighborhood. And so you can see here, when we're done, take a walk around and look and see. We have the Webster Herald is welcoming newcomers to Webster. Thanks to Martha, because without Martha I would have nothing, absolutely nothing to go on, and because we didn't. But when I went on her site, I found all the people sharing their stories and the wonderful nostalgia about it all, and everybody's wanting to reconnect. And if someone posts something on Martha's site, the Facebook page, Indian Village Webster, she gets about 67 hits every time. People constantly check to see what's going on. And some comment, so on. So today, because two people were interested in having a Zoom meeting, we invited Mark Peacocks and Sue Beebe Gagney, I think, and to come. And so they sent us their emails, and Peter Elder hooked us up for that Zoom meeting. So what I'd like you to do, you guys up front, and anybody, to tell us when you moved to Indian Village, what history you have, your mother and father, what was special there, and what do you remember about Webster and Webster schools and so on. Okay? So, and just add as you go along. And Priscilla, since you live in Canandaigua, you can tell us about the neighborhood down there. How interesting it was when you found it too, okay?
Yeah, okay. So we were looking for a house to buy, my husband and I, about 23 years ago. And I always knew about the neighborhood because I saw it and took an interest in it because there was a Seneca Drive, a Mohawk Road, shoot, I wish I had wrote this down. There was a couple streets that are, I think there's a Cayuga Street. So they're all Native American names, and all the same exact kind of houses. So we looked at one on Seneca Drive, and it was kind of eerie walking through. It had the same exact layout. It felt like I was transported into time to Webster, and I kind of figured out that I was like, yeah, this is definitely the same company, so. It was interesting, and also there's a water tank behind the whole neighborhood. So it was just kind of entertaining, and so when we were looking at it, the next door neighbors had a dachshund that was running around in the backyard, and I'm like, okay, we had a dachshund as a child. So it was like, there was a lot of little connections. We didn't buy the house, we bought a different one, but.
But
was
it
just
might be
kinda
interesting
funny.
for you to know that Martha and Priscilla are sisters.
Yeah.
And they grew up on Mohawk Street, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of you could tell that story.
Oh, our parents didn't buy the house until 1958, before either of us were born. So that was always home for us. I
How many
believe
children in your family?
a total of 5. But Mark's parents built the house there on Iroquois Street, right, Mark? We can't hear him.
You gotta unmute.
Oh, there he is. Oh,
Yeah.
Billy says he's gotta unmute.
Oh, maybe he has to turn it up.
No, and he wasn't muted.
Mark, go to your picture in the right top, it'll say unmute.
But we can unmute it too.
Yeah, can't we can unmute him.
No, that will
We can
mute.
hear
That
him
him-
now.
We just muted him.
He was unmuted.
Oh, on your end. I see.
On our
Yeah,
end?
we have to unmute
Yeah,
him.
he pointed to you,
Yeah,
yeah.
we have
What's it
to,
got?
we have to unmute.
I think we're all
I heard him.
technology, so.
can hear
Yes, you are.
Sue's
Mark
good.
is in
Sue's good.
California.
He's
Oh,
actually
wow.
unmuted on
And
our
he
end.
just
He's
took a
muted on his
ride
end.
with his
Motorcycle.
son all
He
up
should
the
be
coast
okay.
of California.
Oh.
And he had posted Facebook.
Everyone's unmuted on our end, but somehow we can't hear Mark.
Mark, are you muted on your end? No,
No.
you're not muted on our end either.
He has so much to say.
Shoot.
He does. He does have a lot to say.
Go up here and see if.
Yeah, that's showing he's not muted though. See how so you can mute.
Yeah, yeah.
you can-
He said he was gonna
There's
move
no,
back
none of them
here
are
and
unmuted.
buy a house in Putney.
Or they're all unmuted.
Doesn't even
They're all
look
unmuted.
up
They're
there
all
and look at the
unmuted.
prices.
Oh, yeah.
He said, no sewers, no sidewalks.
Mark, is your volume up?
I heard
It
that
is.
a house is sold for 249.
If this gets really desperate, and you wanna say something, you can also type to us if you want, cause we can put it on the,
Guess it's a
um,
location.
that's another
So
possibility.
Bill isn't,
No, you all are coming through just fine.
but Mark isn't.
When did,
Mark's-
Bill, when did your parents build their house on Sherwood?
Well, you've come to the source. My grandfather was the superintendent on the job.
Oh, Bill's on there?
Yeah, he can
write us.
How did he get in?
We zoomed him in.
You let him in?
I didn't notice that.
The
That's
Wilmots
good.
are
He
family
knows
friends,
everybody.
and they're Wilmorite. And they didn't want my father in Webster, they wanted him in Mendon,
Do we have a lot?
and he didn't want
Yes, we do. Get
in
in.
Larkspur.
I don't know what we have.
I don't know if you know this, they built
Okay.
from the back. They built a road in the back of everybody's house, and they trucked the houses down that way.
Hey,
I think
Why
it's
don't
because they
guys-
didn't want to drive on the new road. Or what? And
don't you say
so
stop.
they
I'm gonna
reached
fill
the end,
everybody in. No?
they donated Wilmerite Park to the Indian Village.
Oh.
And my father bought all
I'm
the
looking for
land
that
at
house.
the end, 18 acres, and we own 30 feet of everyone's backyard on both sides of the street. My father sold that to him for $1. That's why the lots on Sherwood are so deep. And there's a little anecdote. I can remember in early 60s, Jerry Barrett, Walt Bradley, and whoever the school superintendent was, walking down our driveway, and the surveyor had screwed up and built Webster athletic field on our property.
Okay. Hang on a second. Why don't you
Yeah.
guys come up here? Bring your chairs up here, then you can at least
Or
hear them
how
and
we
see
turn
them.
around and go all out that
Just to
way.
sit
We
around.
probably
can-
could do
do
that.
that too.
So, yeah. Why don't we go
We're gonna
up-
turn you
yeah.
around so that
We'll
everyone
go
can
up.
hear and
Yeah,
see.
we'll go up
There
there.
we go.
It's better.
Yeah, I
nice
can-
enough
we can
for
hear that.
everybody too.
We just
Okay.
can't see 'em.
Interesting.
Go ahead.
Well, and that was it, and, you know, when everybody paid the dollar and transferred. Did that work? Yeah, it did.
There you
Yes.
go, Mark.
Okay. Hi, Mark. How are you? I'm well. We grew up together, guys. Your parents and my parents were the originals. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm still here. This is, Sherwood Avenue. And it's wonderful to see you. It's nice seeing you, man. How's things in San Diego? Wonderful. I went for a little motorcycle ride this morning and it was beautiful out.
All right, back to the.
Yeah, but you're not where life is worth living.
It's beautiful here.
So anyway, what else do you need to know? When McDonald's bought Schutt's Dairy from Hartley and Mr. Freeman, Hartley came down and wanted to buy, this was a turnaround on Sherwood, there was no Wood Street. And so my father sold him what is now Wood Street for $5,200. My mother wouldn't speak to him for a week for taking advantage of him. And my father donated what is now Case Park to keep traffic from going down Sherwood to Wood Street and through the Indian Village.
Right.
At the zoning, to put these houses in, the people on Lower Sherwood said that the first storm they blow down. And the people from National Homes had put one of these houses in a wind tunnel. And it withstood 80 miles per hour. Successful. So their fears were allayed. Anything else you want to know? Let me know.
It's interesting you
When you
say.
say 18 acres, is that E Woods? You know, I really don't know. And my father would just point and say, build a house. And then he built 89 Sherwood for his father, the brick house. And it was terribly screwed up when he was moving because there was no lines. There's, you know, I've got an acre and 1.4 acres. At one point, I owned the driveway for 89 Sherwood and the right of way, and it was a mess. You know, we had that big pool here, the 25 by 50 foot in-ground pool, and he just kind of packed up and walked out the door. My parents took their clothes and left. They didn't. He goes, you work it out, and they got John and Dennis Barrett to divide this up, all up, and it's still a nightmare. Who would have thought that it would become what it is? But whoever's in the last house on Mohawk told me that I couldn't walk my dog through Case Park.
Oh, Iroquois?
Yeah, that one little house at the very end.
Right.
He goes, I'm calling the cops. You can't go in there with a dog. There's deer
We should
in
wait,
there.
'cause it's
And I
gonna
said,
cause
"Well,
more chaos if we
you
do
just
that."
call the police.
Can you hear? Can you hear?
Yeah.
Oh, you can?
Those used to be very, very dense woods there between Iroquois and Sherwood. Yeah,
The volume.
yeah, that, and low, a lot of low lying in there. Right. Yeah. we're still in touch with a lot of the originals.
There was that creek, so they must have filled that creek in, right?
They buried it.
Yes, they put a conduit in there.
They have the potential.
Yeah, that attaches, that's the drain for the water towers.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I remember it being a creek when I was a little girl, probably before Priscilla was born. But, so Mark, you were best friends with Greg Poffler.
Track, of
Oh, yeah.
building the track.
We have a Poffler relative here, yours niece.
Yes.
We have Greg's niece here today.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
Show your face.
show your face.
Show your
Oh,
face.
Come here, Laura.
Where do I have to go?
Right.
Turn it a little bit.
Yeah,
There we go.
I was Greg's, yeah. My, Barbara was Greg's sister, older sister.
So,
Barb Metcalf.
where did you live?
On DeWitt Road,
Okay.
Webster, yeah.
I was over at the DeWitt Road house, when I was probably 15 or 16.
Yep.
Was it Rick that lived there?
Ralph and Barbara, my mom.
Okay.
Yeah, Barbara, yeah, Metcalf. So, I'm gonna block everybody.
So are you? Sue, when did your family move to Indian Village?
So my mother is English and she was a war bride. My parents moved back after the war and lived in East Rochester in an apartment.
If we put
And
on
they bought
books,
our house, I
no?
believe, in 1951. So they would have been original owners of that house. I was born after that. Many years ago, not really. And there were 4 of us. I have a brother, my parents and I lived in that house until I was in 7th grade and we moved over to Jackson Road. So I stayed in the Webster school system through my schooling, but left the area for college. I now live outside of Boston.
You were one of the first settlers of Jackson Road, right?
Yes, yeah. So we had a corner lot, and my mother, who I will say is still alive and quite alert, so I'm going to tell her about this call, recalls that they paid a premium for the corner lot, and I think it was about an extra $1,500 that they paid to have that corner lot. We sat kitty corner from the Peacocks family, and Terry Jo was my fastest and bestest friend the entire time I lived there, and I spent many hours in their house, in their home, playing in their yard, and we all played in the streets. It is the classic, playing in the streets till the lights come on neighborhood. I am impressed that because we were original owners, as were others that you're in touch with, we were always, kind of every kid in the neighborhood was the same age. There was not vast age differences at that time. We all went to school together. We all played together. We were all the same age until there was kind of the first transitions to the second owners. I can still see the family that bought our house. I can picture it in my mind. I think they stayed there for quite a while.
I think the
What else
Jordans,
can I tell you?
I think the
can tell you
Jordans
that my father did a lot of renovations on a house early on. He converted the existing kitchen to a bedroom, and one of the bedrooms into the kitchen. So the configuration of the house was different. Very early on, he built a porch, and I think he built a garage. So he expanded the house quite a bit. And then the porch we used for kind of an auxiliary dining room.
The porch slant breezeway?
Yeah.
And he did a lot of upgrades there.
Yeah.
Plus shutters too, didn't he?
Oh, I don't remember that.
No?
Yeah, possibly.
Billy, what was your grandfather's name?
He didn't hear you.
Are you, Billy?
Yes,
What was your grandfather's name?
Frank Wilson.
Frank Wilson.
Okay, thank you.
He was the original owner of 89 Sherwood. And Dick Schultz and Charlie Bash built that house, as they built all the additions onto this house. And Dick Schultz told my mother, I don't think we can build anymore, you've gotta stop having kids. There's 8 boys and 2 girls. You know, we call Sherwood and Wood Street Hotel California because no one moves from here. The Mahonies that live on Wood Street moved from 13 Sherwood. The person that lives at 84 Sherwood divorced his wife and she bought 13 Sherwood. 55 Sherwood, the one overlooking the soccer field, they got a divorce and she bought 76 Sherwood. The people that were living at 84 Sherwood now live at 146 Wood Street. Everybody here moved, but they never leave the street. It's the best kept secret there is. I was a supervisor at Genesee Brewery for 28 and a half years, and I could leave this idyllic place and be in the heart of the city in 15 minutes. And no one knows it's here.
Right. And Mary Craft is still there. Is she 100 yet?
God bless Mary Craft. She's out there working in her garden as we speak right now.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
You know?
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. You know, that's the house by the sidewalk that goes.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Where is it?
I think I
It's at
graduated.
the end of Wood Street,
Okay.
right before the path to the,
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
that Dan Craft's
yes.
It
family?
is.
Okay, I graduated with Dan.
Yeah.
So Martha and I talked to Mary
Yeah, a couple years
once
ago.
together. She was out working on her garden.
She told her daughter, Diane,
Maybe it was his father.
that Billy Wilson's a fast one, you don't date him. When I walk my dogs past, she reminds me of it. He's a tough woman, can't see very well.
Yeah.
If she called me over, and Diane, does anybody know Diane? She graduated probably 70 or 71.
I know,
I think she may have been in my class, but I happen to have my yearbook right here.
I walked by and Mary Craft said, you remember Diane? I said, of course. We lost her to cancer.
Recently, right?
Oh.
Recently, yeah.
Yeah, I think she was in my class.
Billy, was someone in your family a salesperson for Wilmerite?
My father.
Oh, was your
My father
father?
was vice president of Wilmerite.
there you go.
You have a son named Tucker?
I most certainly do.
Yep.
Tuck just died, you know. Agent Orange.
Oh.
And my brother Dick also has cancer from Agent Orange.
Oh, jeez.
Oh.
Ah.
Yeah, cancer from Agent Orange.
Yeah.
Cancer from Agent Orange.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a ton of us.
So the Kate brothers own the farmer's field to the west of the tract, but that, I'm assuming their property actually ended at the tree line of the woods?
Yeah, about there.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Vernon Cape was the guy that chased us for grabbing apples.
Oh, Mr. Cape.
You remember Mr. Cape?
I do.
Him telling us to get out of there.
Yeah. Jerry used to work for Mr. Cape.
Oh, okay.
Grabbing apples.
My sister, my older sister Barbara is here, and she said that our brother Jerry worked for Mr. Cape.
Yeah.
I think
Back in
everyone
the day.
Apple orchard, yep.
worked for Mr. Cape.
What's that?
That's what I heard. Yeah, picking apples.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
okay,
yes.
okay, picking apples,
The
yep.
big red barn on State Road, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, up by Jackson, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, because I think that that barn was that's where we moved to on Jackson Road, so.
Yes, it's still there, still
Yeah.
there.
And I guess they've leveled the hill that was in the, field along by the creek. The creek ran, north and south from State Road to the wood line,
Right.
and, just to the west of the creek, where it neared the wood line, there's a big hill.
You're right.
There,
There was.
there.
That's still there?
I don't know.
They leveled the whole thing, it's higher, I mean, in the winter I can see it clearly from my window right here.
But they still flattened it down a bit?
Yeah, they leveled the whole thing off.
Okay. Because that was, the major winter place to be for sledding.
That was Toboggan City right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you would crash into the woods if you had a good enough
Yeah.
steam.
Yeah, if you had a good run going.
Yeah.
There was a bike path along the woods from the playground,
It was a hiking
hiking trail,
trail.
I guess. We rode our bikes on it. From along the edge of the woods and through the field over on that edge toward, there used to be a nursery school where the Elks Lodge is.
And there was a playground.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. One of my,
Might be up you there,
yeah,
We'd walk up
Yeah.
there.
or now Ukrainian Club.
Yes.
Yeah, there was trails all through there. Poor Mr. Cape could never catch us in those woods.
You knew the woods.
Yeah, as soon as we hit the woods, we lost.
you never get through the woods now. We tried it a few years ago and it's wild.
I
Ask-
took my kids to the woods, 20 years ago. They were like 10 years old or so. And they were terrified of the woods because they were born and raised out here in California. You don't see woods in San Diego.
Martha,
Yeah.
You don't
Martha?
see woods around here. Maybe some oak trees.
ask Mark about the fort.
We went in
behind
the woods,
his
it was
house.
completely black, the canopy, thank you. Just blinded out the sun, and they were terrified. They said, "Oh my God, what is this place?"
Back when mountain bikes came out, somebody bought very high end, right down at the end of Sherwood there, and Spokes and Wheels or something. And they rode from Webster Park. They rode Mill Creek from where it empties into the lake.
Oh, wow.
My backyard.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Wow.
I heard people yelling, and I go, "What the dickens?" And I go, and there they are. They've ridden all the way up. They had to carry it across a few conduits, but they made it. Yeah, that's a good run.
So we have someone here who wants to know about the fort behind Mark's house.
That was always a work in progress, but we made a very cool fort, and there was a line of cherry trees. Well, from the property line, starting I think right around the Van Houten home, there was a ditch that ran at the west end of all the Iroquois Street properties to the north, and on the other side of the ditch was Cape's Field, and there was a row of cherry trees immediately adjacent to the ditch. And so in one of those cherry trees, we built a fort, and that was like the place to hang out. And
So to get to it, to get over the ditch, you had to stand on one side and run down and get the momentum to get you up the other side. It's the only way you can get over to the other side of the ditch was to run down really fast and use that momentum to get you up on the other side. And so those who were less savvy ended up at the bottom of the ditch and stayed there. But that tree house, that fort, I remember having several like stories. It was, ever evolving, but there was like a ground floor, and then there was was another floor, and there was another floor, and, you know, I spent, you know, again, I spent a lot of time at Peacock's house, and I spent a lot of time at that tree house with Terry Joe, and we imagined all sorts of things, so.
Yeah, yeah. I even have a story that I'm dreadfully ashamed of. Walter Cohn, I believe, lived on Mohawk Street, right?
Yep.
And it seemed like, you know, at some point in time, we were battling and fighting, didn't get along, and it was winter time, and I invited him to the treehouse, and the ditch was completely filled with snow. And so I convinced him to jump off from the snow, and he was buried up to his head. So I decided to throw snowballs at his head.
That's gonna be it.
No!
I do remember several winter snowball fights where we did use the corners of Mohawk and Iroquois to set up our encampments and forts and things.
Walls and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sherwood had their own gang, and then they had the Indian Village gang. There was enough, you know, everybody had 3 or 4 kids, and it was quite a crowd there. You know, those beech trees back there still have people's initials. We found a 1966. They're all, you know, now they're huge trees, but of course it doesn't mean as much because it's just initials. You don't know who's who anymore, but I'm old enough that I do know who they were. You know, and, you know,
there was a tree at the wood line of the field where a wagon wheel had been, a steel rimmed wagon wheel had been leaned against a tree.
Yeah.
Probably a sapling, and when we played in the woods, the tree had actually grown around that wheel.
Yeah, I've got whoever the farmer was that they bought this track from had run thick braided wire, and it's still in these trees. Now these trees are huge, and it's like a half-inch thick, and it's in there. And we used to go back with hammer and nails, and then when the trees died, I'd get my chainsaw, and the tree would get me back. And when the chain would hit those nails, and it would tear up the chain. But, yeah, it's a great place to live.
But yeah, I think it was an idyllic place to grow up. All the kids in the neighborhood. I mean, from Sue and her brother, and Poffler, and Reynolds, and Brian Shears, and Johnny Wyson, and the Brahms, and that whole tract was just family after family after family.
Yeah.
Again, basically all at the same age.
Yes.
Because, you know, the first generation of owners.
Yes. Yeah.
It was kind of the idyllic post-war, iconic, you know, like I said, come in when streetlights come on, family lifestyle.
Yes.
And everyone knew everyone else.
Yes.
You know, you couldn't get away with anything.
No.
It was true for our generation too.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Terry, Joe, and I, and Mickey would join, would put on like plays and things, and we took, you know, Debbie Braun and Terry, Joe, and Mickey and I all took dance lessons together, and we were, you know, kind of everything we did, we just did together. We were all part of that same generation, and if I remember, we walked to school, which was the Webster Central School building. Walked, you know, and our dogs would follow us, and our dogs would come, you know, it was just so stereotypical of that era.
Billy had
We're
a
still
knee
in touch with
operation. Ask him how
a
his
lot
knee
of people. They're spread out. They're, you know, we just lost Brent Averill. I don't know if any of you knew the Averills. Dr. Averill was the oral surgeon. That's 55. That's the house as it goes down that overlooks. Brent made it big in the recording industry. He recorded he was Michael Jackson's recording engineer. He's got 11 platinums. If you look, Rent Averill Enterprise, he just died last year. I buried him at, the Averils had a plot in Webster Rural Cemetery. They're Websterites going back to mid to late 1800s. And he did quite well for himself. There. And of course, everybody knows you when you're famous.
Yeah.
But, Mark, I think you mentioned Lou Graham.
Right.
What, did he live in Webster?
He does
He
now.
does now.
He does.
Oh,
He
he,
does now, but not as a child.
Yeah.
oh, he does now? Oh, I didn't know that.
Around a
He's
creek.
a West Side boy. He's
His house
Gates.
overlooks the bay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Nice.
I think he had a cousin though that lived in, it was in my class,
Huh?
I think.
Grandma Tico.
Yeah.
My husband borrowed an amp from Greg before. He drove out to borrow an amplifier because they were in a band. I don't know if Mark played with any of the bands Greg was in. I know they practiced.
Somewhere, I
I
have,
remember hearing music from about 2
They practiced probably
Yeah,
in
the
the garage.
cousin's name was Lewis.
somewhere, I must have just recently moved.
He's spooky.
Who moved my cheese?
Yeah.
He's got a fake background.
Somewhere in here, I have a business card from our band. The manager was Steve Schmidt. He lived on Pontiac. Then it says like, Greg Palfler, lead guitar, Mark Peacock's rhythm guitar, Keith Reynolds bass, and Brian Church drums. And we were the Blood of Mercy, whatever that meant.
Blood of
Blood of
Mercy.
Mercy.
That's their name of their
Oh,
band.
Blood of Mercy.
Up to Scandic
But it
Grandma.
was in,
I put up for an hour and a
you know,
half. There's no time to
old
look like-
English font, so it looked like it said Blood of Mary, and I was so disappointed with that.
Yeah,
that would make a lot
of enemies.
Yeah.
All the time,
Hmm?
played all the churches and
Yeah.
tea canteen,
Church dances.
and all those places back then.
Grange Hall.
Grange Hall.
Do they know we're
Well,
taping
Webster
it?
Rec Center is now the Historical Society, right?
Right, and the Rec Center was like the musical spot.
It would pack every weekend. That thing was packed.
Yeah, where was it? It was in the village. Some.
Where was it? The
Where
Grange?
you are right now.
The Grange? The Grange Hall?
No, the,
Here.
the museum. Oh, the rec hall.
Yeah, the Rec Hall.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
I remember.
That was here.
Yeah.
The rec hall was here, yeah.
Yeah,
I
this was
remember
the rec
coming
hall.
here.
that's where you're at right now, right?
That, wasn't the Grange Hall down,
The Grange Hall was, but the rec hall was here.
oh, okay. I thought they were talking about the Grange Hall.
Is it, Harmony House now?
Right.
Yeah. No, it is.
But
Yeah.
it's still, I think technically Webster Grange Hall. Yeah, Rec Center was the happening place every weekend.
Yeah, it was. Guys, I gotta go for rehab. I just had a knee put in
bad?
last Monday, and she's here now. It was nice talking to you guys. I'll be in touch.
Thanks for coming.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
So what do you have
I
to
was
share?
thinking the Rec Hall when I said Grange, right?
Right.
Correct. Yeah.
We're not
And
far
that's
from the
also
Grange
where
Hall.
we took our dance lessons at the Rec Hall. There was a skating rink.
Didn't you go to a place that was, I thought it was right on Main Street where you did your dance lessons?
Yeah, so am I still mixing it up? It was right on Main Street.
Yeah, we're on Lapham Park right now.
Okay, so that's not it.
So the Grange Hall is
On Main Street?
just north of us.
It's
Yeah.
East Main and
Yeah,
Kircher.
I know
Yeah,
that-
that's where it
that
was.
wasn't
Kitty
it, but
corner.
yes, Mark, we took our dance lessons and I know that a lot of bands played there too on the weekends, and I don't know what it was called, but there was a parking lot behind it that became a skating rink in the winter.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, there was an actual skating rink on the north side of East
Do you know where
Street.
that would have been? No.
It's behind Hutchins Bakery, the Grange Hall, it's that whole.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
Essentially-
yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially abandoned and probably converted into a parking lot, I think at some point, but I think in the 50s, it was a often used skating rink.
Yeah, so I'm looking right now at a building at a random, I'm just looking on a street view, something called, Laugh and Love Always, La La,
Oh, yeah,
on Main
it's
Street.
behind there.
Yeah, the Grange is on the corner of Kircher Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this other building that I'm looking at is about the vicinity of where we took our dance lessons from.
Okay.
I'm gonna catch up with the, my other computer. Zoom in. Yeah, there's been so many changes, you know, I used to come back there and visit family for years and years and years, and it seemed like nothing ever changed in Webster. But now there's been quite a bit of
You
change.
should see the village now.
Yeah.
I'm back every 5 years for my reunion.
Oh, great. For your school reunion you're talking about?
For my high school reunion, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've come back, I think I've missed one, but I'm back every 5 years. And I drive past 8 Mohawk Street, and I drive past my Jackson Roadhouse. You know, the trees at Mohawk Street are really, to me, just amazing, because there were no trees when we lived there. You had willow trees in your front yard, but other trees were really tiny, you know, saplings, and you know, now there's mature trees in every yard, and it's really surprising.
More
What else?
questions? More questions?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing. What else can we
That's
tell you
good.
More
about the
questions.
lifestyle of,
I'm gonna
four kids and,
tell him I'll contact him.
Ask him if he played with
Fine.
Mercury, Silver Mercury with Greg.
Mark has an
I don't know where he
amazing
got it
memory
from.
for the history of Webster. Mine's a little
I can ask
foggy.
him.
I don't know what I was doing, but. Well, it was
Yeah.
great for you to set up this Zoom. Hopefully, you were able to share some.
Mark and Sue,
memories.
we want to let you know, this is Jan, we want to let you know that we're also taping this.
Okay.
So eventually it'll be on YouTube, right?
So, yes.
On YouTube eventually.
Oh, wow.
And you can look it up and listen to yourselves again.
Well, if he's still alive, that means Walter Cohn's coming after me.
What'd he say?
What's that?
Walter
Still
Cohn's
alive.
coming after him.
If he's still alive, Walter Cohn's coming after him. Oh, no.
When are you coming back to Webster, Mark?
Boy, I keep saying I'm gonna come out there. The last time I was out there was I think 2015, and I drove there
Oh, jeez.
to rescue my mother-in-law. And yeah, there's been numerous times I've been wanting to come back there, and my dream is to hop on my motorcycle and ride across country and spend a few months doing the trip,
Right across
staying
country.
up with
That was
for a while,
motorcycle.
and seeing everybody and seeing all the sights.
Right.
So
Country,
I
I was
don't know.
motorcycle.
I don't know. I don't have any definitive plans, but it's always in the back of my mind to do something about that. And unbelievably, I'm extremely busy in retirement. So, with grandkids and kids and entertaining myself, so just a lot of good stuff to do.
Thank you for being part of the group. I've really appreciated it.
Well, I'm thrilled that you set up that group. That's just a fabulous place and shining star of Facebook.
Well, thanks.
I agree.
It's been fun. It
It
has
I'm
been
gonna
fun.
try to dig out some
It's fun
pictures.
to
My
go
dad
online.
worked for Kodak and was often experimenting with cameras, so I have tons of pictures from my childhood, and I'm not sure where they are, but I will try to dig them out because they all would have been in the backyard. Maybe with like tents set up because we did a lot of camping out in my backyard and the lot next to Mark's house. You know, summer times were spent camping and chasing fireflies.
Right. I didn't realize your father worked at Kodak.
Yeah,
You know where he worked? There?
the main building.
The office you talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I worked at Kodak Park for 7 years.
yeah,
So.
yeah.
Mark, will you make sure we get a copy of that map that you did?
So what I'm doing right now, I'm culling all of the messages and comments on the group and just popping them into a text file so I can sort of make sense of them, and I'm going to populate my maps
Okay.
with all the things that I've got, including dates. And so that'll probably take me a good week or so. And I'll just, put that back out there once I get something, and we can modify it from there.
Mark, are you looking for just original owners or
No,
whoever? Because like when I grew up on Pontiac Street, I was 3 when we moved in, and I can tell you who lived there like from the time I was 5 until I left, pretty much. But I have some holes there. But my husband actually drove me up and down Pontiac today, and I was like, oh yeah, that house. I couldn't remember house numbers,
Yeah.
but I wrote down all the numbers and who I believe lived there. So I can, if you want me to, I can either, can I message it to you on Facebook?
you can message me, you can email me. My email address is ibmindless, MINDLESS,
Okay,
yahoo.com. So you can email me anytime, message me anytime, or put it on comments.
okay, all right, that sounds good.
You can go on Google Earth
But yeah,
too,
looking
that's
for
what
the
I
whole
do.
history at this point.
Because like my parents own, we actually, my family, I'm Sandy Clark, by the way. I wasn't sure if you recognize me from Facebook or not. But anyway, my family actually owned 3 different houses in the neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
My parents were original owners. They bought 80 Pontiac. My sister is here. She won't speak, but she lived in 80 Pontiac. Barbara, say hello. She's 13 years older than I am, so when we lived at 50 Pontiac, she was actually getting ready to move out of the house, basically. But anyway, from 80 Pontiac, they moved into the city for a year. My family had a bit of a big tragedy. My sister was 9 years old. She was helping my mother in the kitchen. She reached up above the stove. Her dress caught fire, and she died. I never knew her, of course, because I wasn't born until 1961. This happened in 55. So my family left 80 Pontiac, went into the city for a year, and came back to the neighborhood and bought 218 Iroquois, which is where I was born, or when I was born. This is a picture. I think I posted it on Facebook. This is my sister Barbara holding me. And so we lived at 218 Iroquois. I think I was 2 or 3. I think I was somewhere between 2 and 3. Barbara, do you remember exactly when we moved to 50 Pontiac?
I was in 8th grade.
Okay, so you were in 8th grade.
Probably 12 or 13 when we moved there.
no, because you were 13 here.
I was in 8th grade when we moved.
Okay, I think somewhere between 2 and 3 I was when we moved to 50 Pontiac. And I didn't leave there until I got married in 1985. So, you know, I grew up in that neighborhood. I think, Mark, you mentioned the Hicks family.
Yes,
They were our next door neighbors.
okay,
Carl and Debbie and their mom lived next door to us.
yeah.
So, and then there was someone else you mentioned too that I was gonna say.
You know, up in that curve of Pontiac, there's the Hicks' Phil Metzler.
I didn't remember that name. Do you remember where they lived?
They were on the outside curve of Pontiac, so
What was the name,
probably
Sandy?
around,
Messler? Do you remember that name, Barbara? Okay.
around 60 or 66. What was the guy's name that had polio?
Rickards? June, or,
There
no,
were-
what was her name?
Oh.
Jean
Jean
Rickards had
Rickards had
polio.
They,
They-
this
They,
was,
they were on the
Was
other
it
side.
Kim Leary? Was that?
oh, that's the father.
Okay.
Father had.
I know Ronnie Durand had it, but he was
No,
not.
this was, I wanna say Raymond, Raymond somebody or somebody Raymond, lived around 60 or 66 or 70 Pontiac.
I
And
don't
across
know.
the street, the Rickards, I remember Pat Rickard.
Yep, Pat Rickards and
Yes, he's married to, someone, yes, yes. He's married to Nan.
The mom had polio.
yeah, Jean, their mother had polio. And then his sister Barbara Rickards, her and her husband bought the house. Her name was, she married Steve Prinzing, and they lived there for a while with their 2 daughters. And Tracy, their oldest daughter, was a little bit younger than I was, but I played with her, so I hung out there a lot. I hung out at the Rickards with my mother because she would go over and visit Jean. And then you know, when Barb bought the house and Tracy was there, I would go over and play with Tracy,
I
so.
played with Tracy.
You played with Tracy, okay, okay. And then I think you also mentioned, did you mention the Dentons?
The Dentons?
Yeah,
He was custodian at one of the schools.
yes, he was, yep,
And she worked at the grocery store.
yep. Yep, I was good friends with their
Kids remember
kids too,
everything.
because they were just kitty corner from us. The Dentons just lived kitty corner from us. So I was really good friends with them as
Were they
well.
right next to the Prinzings?
They were right next to
Okay.
Prinzings, yep.
I remember, there was a family, the Millers, that lived.
Oh, yeah, Louise Miller.
I told you.
Wheezy,
Wheezy Miller, yeah.
I used to go down there, I would go down there and play with the kids, and my mother finally said, you know what, if you're gonna go down to Wheezy's all the time, I might as well get a part-time job and let her watch you. So my mom went and got a job at Xerox Cafeteria because, I was always down at Wheezy's playing with the kids.
That's the thing, she babysat so many kids, but she never told other kids not to come in the
Oh,
yard and
never,
play.
no,
I mean, we couldn't go in the house and use the bathroom,
Right,
but
but
we
you
could
could play outside,
Right, we always played
definitely.
I don't
there.
ever remember going to play there.
I
Really?
remember- oh, I remember going
gosh,
there.
all the
But
time.
Hazel-
Jean?
Hazel Duthway
And then
was
she had a
Louise's
younger son,
sister.
and-
Yes,
And
yes.
Hazel lived down on that kitty
Yeah,
corner house
yeah,
by the dead end.
Hazel babysat too, didn't
Yes,
she?
she
Yeah,
did.
I
My
thought
mom,
so.
my mom did.
And
Yeah.
I remember Doug Campbell.
He was a fire, worked for the volunteer
Was
fire
making
department for
models
years and years and years.
One of my best friends was absolutely enamored with.
Oh, yeah.
Roberta.
The entry to the playground.
Field, and, yeah.
Yeah.
My mother had said that she thought there was gonna be another street there, but they changed their mind,
Right.
and that's why that was at an angle. and then it turned out to be the driveway of the playground.
Ah,
Oh,
Except the driveway's in the backyard of the house instead of the front.
Because there was Doug Campbell and then
It-
one
it's-
house down
I'm
Humphreys.
not sure how.
Right.
I remember
And the
Humphrey.
Weisses, excuse me, the Weisses, the Wojaks, they lived down there, Joey Wojak. So,
I remember Mr. Skiff.
right, and his wife was a teller at Marine Midland Bank. But Mr. Skiff, or Skiffy, as we call him, worked with my father at Stromberg Carlson and General Dynamics. And he had a Corvette that he bought. And he took Craig Reynolds and Keith Reynolds and myself, one at a time, of course, in his brand new Corvette, and took us out onto Jackson Road and took it up to 100 miles an hour.
whoa,
Goodness.
Those were the days.
I'm telling.
Yeah, so that was a thrill of a lifetime.
So, at one point in time, there was a girl named Doreen who lived on the other side of the Reynolds. She was kind of kitty corner to my parents, McKittra or something like that.
I remember that name. I do remember that name, McKittra.
That sounds familiar, but it's not. Can
I don't
think?
remember Doreen, but I do remember that name, that last name.
Yeah, that's not. No. I can't place that. But I know right around there was the first place we ever played in our band. It was a house party. The first gig we ever played. But we were probably 13. So that was pretty exciting. And, you know, in that tract, I'd assume the same thing was true for you, but bicycles were the whole world.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And Sue was like she had a made in England British 3-speed bicycle in green, right?
Wow, what a memory.
Mhm.
My uncle in
With a
England.
bike pump on it too, the tires.
Yes. My uncle in England fabricated bikes. He made those bikes, and he made them for the British Olympic racing teams. And when we would go visit, he made them for us to bring back. So somehow we brought them back on the plane. I went to England quite often, but for the first time alone when I was 11.
Wow.
Wow.
Back with a bike.
That's a journey.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had banana seat bikes.
I have a story. Sandy's older sister who doesn't speak. Her first bicycle, the Clark family did not have a lot of money, so
There she is, right there.
poor Barbara did not have a bicycle. Bahoo, bahoo, bahoo. The police chief of Webster brought me a used bicycle. It was, the fenders were all beat up and everything. However, can't remember who in the family, maybe my father, spray painted the fenders red or whatever. It was my bicycle, a girl's bicycle. I really did not know how to ride it yet, but I was working it. One of my older brothers decided he would take it for a ride down to the village. And the path down to the village, which was now North Avenue, it was asphalted and it was very bumpy. He was riding it along there and crashed it, and that was the end of my one and only ever bicycle that I ever owned. But the police chief of Webster brought me that bicycle,
Have
so,
you compensated for yourself for that injustice?
yeah.
In later life, have you compensated yourself for that?
Have you compensated yourself for that in
Yeah,
your
well,
later life?
actually, I think when, on my 30th birthday or whatever, my husband bought me a bicycle. So it took a while, but however, yes, I did get a bicycle. And now I'm too old. Now I'm too, I have some health issues that precludes riding a bicycle, but I did have a bicycle, yes, when I was way
You know,
older.
they have three-wheeled electric bicycles.
Yeah, I know.
What about the story about the postman? Remember that, there was a long, Milner?
Middleton,
No.
wonderful guy.
Okay, talk about him.
He was almost like
Mr. Middleton.
extended family, I guess, you know, and I remember I was really 4 or 5 years old, and he was talking about his hat, his, as you can see, I've been addicted to hats since I was 4 years old, and he had mentioned something to my mother about he was going to get a new hat, and so I started begging him for his old hat, and he gave me his old hat. So I had a hat tree in my bedroom, and that proudly sat up there, and I would try it on all the time and admire myself in the mirror. Because it looked like almost like a policeman's hat, you know. It was had that bill on it, the brim that would poke out. Yeah.
So with our family being overseas, to exchange presents at the holidays, to exchange Christmas presents, meant that you had to mail them in mid-November because they would only go by boat. And we would package up all of our presents to send to England, and England would package up presents to send to us. And the postman, Jimmy Middleton, would look for those packages, and sometimes they would not arrive until Christmas Eve. And he would look for them and take them out of the post office and bring them to our house. So we would have them in time for Christmas. Long before priority mail or express mail.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, you wouldn't use airmail for that. You know, it was just, and my mother went to his wife's beauty salon. It was in their home on South Avenue.
The good
Did
old
they
days.
mention his name?
Middleton, Jimmy
Oh,
Middleton.
Middleton, okay.
And when my mom would go to England, I would go to get my hair done once a week there because my mother wasn't around to do it. So I would spend a lot of time in the beauty salon.
And he had a brother Howard who owned Howard's Men's Shop.
Oh, my brother used to get all of his clothes from Howard's Men's Shop.
And that was right next to
Howard
Casey's drugstore.
Right over here
Yep.
on Main Street.
Oh, yeah?
That was the drugstore you couldn't think of, Cases.
Yeah.
The first
Yep.
policeman of Webster that I remember was Stein. His last name was Stein, and he had a green 1957 Ford that he would proudly patrol the streets.
Big man,
Pardon me?
big man.
Yes.
Yes, he brought me my bicycle.
Yeah.
Oh. Which one was it?
What was his name?
Stein,
Oh, Jim Stein?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
And so
well, he brought me my bicycle
Good.
that my brother put 80 grand in.
It's the opposite end of that. We used to call him Jittery Jim.
Oh, well, whatever. He brought me my bicycle,
so there
first
was that
bicycle.
building on the corner of the Four Corners. There was a butcher shop.
Yeah.
Across from the gas
Butcher shop.
station
Where
and
Jeff's computer.
Burt's. Remember that? There was a butcher shop there on the corner?
You talking about?
Do you
is he
remember
talking
that,
about West
Barbara?
Webster or
The
no?
butcher shop?
I don't,
What was the name? Did you say
What was
name?
the name?
Butcher shop.
Well, it was
Oh, yeah, what's the name?
Warden's?
I have been struggling with that recently.
I don't
Oh,
remember that.
yeah, where was Warden's? Remember Stan Warden?
I remember the
Yes.
name.
Was it
Stan
Warden's?
Yes.
Stan Warden had
Stan
a shop
Warden.
on the corner of Main and,
Because the
Yeah.
Theodore
Yep.
was down.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, oh.
That's
Theodore was
Jan.
down from
That's what,
That's the store that Gary
oh,
used to throw the snowballs
Yeah.
at and knock the stuff.
What was
off the
it?
shelf.
Holly?
yes,
Holly's
I
Hardware,
love that story.
do you remember that?
No.
No?
Who's that?
Yeah.
Hollies.
Holly's Hardware.
Holly's.
Hardware, yeah.
It was like 4 doors down the street from Warden's Butcher Shop. And Holly's Hardware had all wood floors and, those metal,
What's he trying to
ceilings.
think of?
And there was like a giant moose head and
Holly's
deer head
Hardware Store.
mounted on this
Holly's
wall
Oh,
in the
yeah.
back of the store. And there were bins of nails and nuts and bolts and my father
That's-
would take
you
me
got good
there
memory.
because he needed
Yeah.
to get nails.
That's
I
the
mean, Mrs.
building,
Whitmer's store was right next to where that.
But the point I was gonna make
butcher
was,
shop.
at
And then,
Warden,
Whitmer's.
Butcher Warden was a volunteer fireman. And
And
so,
then
The
Lucas's,
Bay-
whenever the
Lucas
siren
Truck
went
Store.
off
Yeah.
and it wasn't noon, because
And
the
the Bay-
Bowman's
siren
Variety at one
went off
time,
every day at
and
noon.
later
But
Foliage,
when it didn't go
Yeah.
off,
Then the
at
bank.
noon,
Then
and
the
it went off at
then Holly's,
10
then
a.m. or
Bacon's,
3
and then
p.m.
Lucas's drugstore.
Warden would
Right.
run out of the butcher shop into the middle of the four corners and stop all the traffic.
Oh,
Who is this?
And he'd have his apron on with
Stan Warden, the butcher.
bloody apron, and he'd be going, stop,
He must have been a
stop,"
character.
and let the fire trucks come
Yeah.
through.
Oh,
Gee.
Oh,
I told you
Yeah.
that
And that was
story,
a big event.
wow.
Wow.
so I can still see him out there.
So, do you remember the candy
Kitchen?
kitchen? My sister worked
I
there.
did.
She met her husband there.
I did. And I raised the price of, sorry everyone, ice cream cones. Chris Panis, when I first started working there, I was scooping ice cream. And apparently he didn't like the size of the ice cream cones, and he whipped down his sign and he said, if you're going to give away my ice cream, I'm gonna have to raise the price of the cones. And he crossed out the price and he upped the price of ice cream cones. Well, gee, I wasn't gonna skimp on it, so,
And I
oh
used,
well.
I used to love to go in there when she was working because I would get cherry Coke.
I was just gonna say, we always go
Cherry Cokes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But then
We have
I
stuff
got
here.
wild and crazy and I started having
Do you?
vanilla phosphate,
Over the
chocolate
next while.
phosphate.
Oh, I should
Uh,
go take a
Chris's
look before
pictures
so.
up there.
Yeah, maybe I'm in it.
Yeah, right. No, I don't think so.
What is your, I don't know your name, that's right.
My maiden name, Klaus.
Okay. Charlie's,
Yeah,
yours.
I'm his sister,
So Mark, the
next
candy
younger.
kitchen
yeah,
was
Charlie has
situated
been
kind
very
of
helpful
next
to
door
us
to,
with the.
again,
The
where we had
Vietnam.
our
Vietnam
dance
stuff like
classes
that.
and there
Very
were bands
proud of
playing.
him.
It was
Now,
that
what was your
block
older
of
brother's name?
Main Street.
Yep.
Next older than him was Jerry,
And
The
then,
bank was on the corner.
Carl,
and then candy kitchen after that.
Yeah,
Carl,
and then something, and then I
Jerry,
think the building that I just
Charlie,
looked at, the street
Barbara.
Jerry's the one
building
that I
that
know.
had a
Oh,
lower
really?
level that
Yeah,
opened up
yeah,
in the back. We would enter
He
from the
died of
back side.
Do you-
cancer.
Do you remember a florist being there? Somewhere in there?
No,
I
in
remember bakery being there because after our
long time.
dance
About
class, I would always go
1976.
get
Oh, okay.
chocolate eclair at the bakery.
He was 30.
There was
Was
a
it-
florist there one time.
There was a florist, okay. Because my sister remembers saving up with my brothers.
Yeah.
She said they saved up like 65 cents and went in on, before Mother's Day. Barbara, tell the story.
Burgers, yes, we, my brothers and I, we, got our whatever little change we had, and it totaled 65 cents. Of course, my brothers, being brothers, you go. So I went to the counter with my 65 cents, and, this, and little German man, I didn't know who it was.
Willie
was-
Cooks.
Yes, thank you. That
It was
his
Willie
name.
Fuchs, yep.
Yes. Can I help? Yes, we want to buy our mother flowers for Mother's Day. I said flowers. Okay, he looked at me, took our change, he went in the back room. He came back with a carnation, some baby's breath, a pretty ribbon, and he had put it in cellophane so it
Oh,
looked
nice.
like it was a big deal. And that was our Mother's Day flower for, yeah, I'll never forget that, never forget that. Sweet, sweet man.
That was Kittleburgers.
Yes, yes, yes. And it
Kittleburgers.
was just a little shacky building.
It was
You know, it was
just a greenhouse.
probably, I'm 76, it was probably 70 years ago at least.
Yeah. And it was Utz's.
Yeah, it's come a long
Yep,
way.
that's his bakery.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, and then there was Frank's
I was
Barbershop.
friends with Kathy.
Bashes, Joe Bashes, you remember
Remember
that?
that.
Market Basket,
Picture.
Kippy up.
the Market
Yeah.
Basket,
Kathy Upson and I
Yeah,
were
yeah,
friends.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
King's Market down further.
And I was
That's
the
where I had
same
my
age as
long hair cut off,
Shane.
involuntarily.
Well, this has been a terrific walk down memory lane. It's been fun for me, so hopefully enjoyable for others.
Yeah, it's fun.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
And done
much.
it once, maybe we can do it again. I do think about that whole generation,
You start your own.
the first generation of kids like me who are, kind of in our age range and are scattered probably all around the country, and it would be great to try to bring some of them back and share their memories as well.
I would love to see this expand with more participants. Perhaps if we advertise the quarterly or something like that.
So I didn't remember more stories.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you for responding to the request to do this.
I think they're gonna have a reunion eventually.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was your intention to include us, but really appreciate that you did.
Oh, we love having you here. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
I'm gonna share this with my mother, and I will bring back any stories that she has.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Thanks, Martha and everyone.